my channel. I thought I would get into 2019 with an updated palette collection, and I've actually changed the way I do my storage just a little bit, which I gave a little bit of a preview on. I've kind of been looking at the KonMari way of tidying and trying to put things out that bring me joy. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'm going to actually do a separate video about that, but let's just jump right into it. So this one here is from Sydney Grace. These are all of my Sydney Grace singles, my Makeup Geek, and I have a few Ofra singles in here as well. This side is mostly Sydney Grace and this side is mostly Makeup Geek. And everything in here, I believe this line here is from Ofra. I have the Morphe and James Charles palette as well. Everybody has seen this. This is no news. I got it on the second round of the restock. So far, I'm liking it. I have some questions about a few of the shades, but my thoughts on that in another video. This is the Morphe Dare to Create. This was one of those ones that I really felt like I had to have, but then when you get it, you realize that like basically this is all the same. I don't have a problem with it, but it's just some food for thought. Everybody has seen this one a million times. This is the Morphe plus Jaclyn Hill, and I just stuck my finger in it. And I kind of feel the same way about this as I do about the Dare to Create, where like this whole top section looks so similar to me that I'm not sure how I feel about it. This next one is quite large. This is a Colored Raine empty palette that I actually depotted almost all of my Lorac shades into. So this is going to be hard to get a shot of because of the reflection. But this is Lorac 1, 2, 3, Mega Pro 1, and Mega Pro 4. I wasn't reaching for my Lorac shadows because the way that they were laid out and they were kind of all over the place. So I did depot all of them, and this is where they are now. This guy here is the Morphe 35B. This is probably going to end up in a declutter, as is this guy here, which is the 35S. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just not something I reach for. And if I was going for Morphe shadows, it would probably be one of these three here, or this one actually. This is the Morphe Boss Mood, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of this. It is a little bit more unique. But then when you put this up against the Jaclyn Hill Vault, which I have in one of my drawers, I'm not sure you would need all of them. They're not totally exact, but it's a lot of the same type of color stories. This guy here is from Rude Cosmetics. It's a 28 Shadow No Excuse Shimmer palette. I just wanted to try Rude Cosmetics, and I had seen this at Winners, and it was like 12 bucks, so I grabbed it. So far, it's not too bad. The biggest controversy of the year, this is the Emily Edit, the Wants. I have no true issues with this. I bought it right when it came out, so this is the first round, and truthfully, it performs exactly the way I would expect a Makeup Revolution palette to perform. And I love Emily Noel. She was one of my first loves on YouTube. This is the NYX Swear By It. I believe this is one of the first ones they did with their formula changed to their newer formula when they were trying to rebrand as a more not a high-end one, not a high-end brand, sorry, but a more high-end than low-level drugstore. I actually like this. There's a lot of dupes in this for other very popular shades, and I've thought about doing a video where I try and dupe out as many as I can. Like this is like blue-brown over here. I'm really sorry. I've been sick, so my voice is kind of going in and out. There's so many palettes in here. I know I'm gonna have to declutter this year. Like these two here. This is the Too Faced, a few of my favorite things. This one was all over YouTube for such a long time, and so was its friend here, which is Everything Nice. These are those palettes that you know they bring out every single year. They're so similar, but you end up buying them anyway. This is the first year I didn't buy any of the holiday Too Faced products. This is last year's. This is best year ever. Looks like this. I actually do like all three of these. It's just they're so similar, you really don't need all three. This guy here is the Ofra Pro palette in Free Spirit. The face products in this are wonderful. I actually had this in my worst products of 2018 only because the eyeshadows are very crappy in my opinion. For the price of the palette, I wasn't impressed. However, I'm happy with the amount of face products that came with it. This is another holiday gift, another holiday set, sorry. This is from 2018, the Tarte holiday one. Can't remember exactly what it's called, and it came with all 3 lights, camera, lashes, a sex kitten liner, and a Tarteist lip product. My brain is not snapped on today. Same thing with this, like it was nice and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little bit bulky, so I wasn't really finding myself pulling it out, but since I put it up here, I definitely have noticed it a lot more. These are all palettes I used to have in the bottom drawer stacked one on top of the other, so you couldn't actually see any of them. So I'm sure everybody has seen this one if you've been on YouTube at all this year. This is the Magic by Juvia's Place. Juvia's Place is an e-commerce brand that has just recently started selling at Ulta. They specialize in very brightly colored and very unique color stories, and their packaging is always beautiful. Moving on, this is the Flamingo palette from Violet Voss. I actually really like this. This is one of my favorite summer palettes that I had been using. You can actually see a fair amount of usage in this guy. This is still available. 2 more Violet Voss palettes. This is the Holy Grail palette. I actually have the original packaging style, which is more like the Lorac packaging. I have a new version of this, which I'm going to be putting in a giveaway very soon, so stay tuned for that. It won't have its own video. That giveaway is just going to go into a random video that goes up, so you'll have to keep watch. This is the Violet Voss Drenched Metals. Again, same type of thing, just lots of shimmer shades. I don't have the same love for these two as I do for the Flamingo, so to me, it's almost like they reformulated in this one. And last in this section is the Alice Through the Looking Glass palette, which looks like this. I saw so many people declutter this palette this year, but it's actually really nice, and I feel like it's really unique, and not by the packaging, by the actual shade selection. There's not a ton of shades out like this anymore. Like there's so many like cool tones over here, and then some of these more vibrant like tealy greens. It's not something you see all the time. I like books a lot, so I really like this setup because it looks like books. Moving next door, we have some of my absolute favorites and some of my more unique packaging. So these 3 here are Pat McGrath, and these 4 are the smaller Pat McGrath. I will go through the thing in the middle because I'm pretty sure I'm going to knock stuff over as I do this. So I'm just going to take these out and put them up here, and take these out and put them down to the side. So Aqua Lilies for Tarte is pretty old. Every time I do a declutter, I seriously consider getting rid of this, and I never ever do. I'm really attached to it. I have no idea why. It's almost like sentimental value, but I'm not sure what I'm tying to it. However, packaging is freaking beautiful. I think it's probably one of the first Tarte things I ever bought, and it was one of the first things I bought when I started my channel, so it's probably why. This is the Make Believe in Yourself from Tarte. It is this like all shimmer, very unique to Tarte's line. They didn't have a lot of colors out at the time. I actually really like this, and this is my second one. My first one had a whole bunch of usage in it, and then I knocked it off one of my towers and it broke and shattered everywhere. I was very, very sad. This guy here is from this year. This was a Be a Mermaid and Make Waves. Probably one of the more unique packagings I've seen, and I actually really like Tarte's packaging that's like crazy like this. I know a lot of people don't love it because they don't like to store it. I like these as display pieces. I use them as well, but this is very similar to the Tarte Christmas palettes from last year, so I probably could have got away with not picking this up, but honestly with the packaging, I totally fell for it. And last but not least in my little Tarte brigade here is the Pineapple of My Eye, which looks like this. So this I actually really loved. This was one of the things I reached for the most in 2018 after I bought it. It was more towards the end of the year, bought it around my birthday. But this is a really great palette to have to take to the gym. And I know like it seems ridiculous to take this to the gym, but because there's so many different shades and I like such different looks throughout the week, I don't have like a one look that I go to, and it has so many shades for the face. It was just a good complete palette for me. Pat McGrath definitely stole my heart this year. This guy here is the Mothership Sublime 2. Honestly, the true reason I really love Pat McGrath is, one, their packaging is very streamlined. It's very nice. I wish they would put the names of all the separate things on it, but they're on these packagings instead of the actual palette. But their duochromes are just bananas in my experience. Like, it's hard to pick up on camera, but they're just crazy. Like, from different angles, they're completely different colors. Like, this guy here is purple and now it's blue. That one up there is like a gold green and now it's pink. Like, there's just nothing else on the market like this, in my opinion. This here is the Subversive 3, same thing, just some really crazy duochromes. This is more of like an everyday palette for a lot of people, with the more neutral shades over here. My favorite one is coming up though. If you're interested in a like best of Pat McGrath palettes, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that. Last full size I have is the Mothership 5 Bronze Seduction. This is probably the most popular one that is out right now. Did I mix these up? I'm a liar, I mixed these up. This is actually the Subversive 3 and the previous one was the Bronze Seduction. I thought that when I pulled it out, and then I panicked. But this is Subversive 3. There you go. The packaging makes it difficult to tell them apart. Okay, now for the minis, we have the Metamorphosis palette, which is like this. It doesn't look like it's much, but damn, when these are on the eye and swatch, they are crazy. This guy is Dark Matter. Yes, Dark Matter. This blue is beautiful. If you're looking for like just a neutral one, this is a good one as well. This is Bronze Temptation. Just gives you like a pop of green and everything else is pretty neutral. And my first ever Pat McGrath palette is the La Vie en Rose, and I actually bought it for this purple because it is the craziest purple I think I have ever dealt with, and that goes for the Lila palette as well by Natasha Denona, which will be coming up momentarily. Okay, so we're moving to the last cube, which is just some of my more unique pieces. So this is the Kat Von D Saints and Sinners. I know that not a lot of people are a fan of her anymore, but I still can't deny some of her artwork is pretty amazing. And I still do like the products I had already purchased. Not that I feel the need to explain myself. This guy here is a Natasha Denona Lila palette. I was actually kind of, I don't want to say disappointed with this, but I was kind of surprised I didn't like it more than I do, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know why, but I can never remember the name of this. It's an Urban Decay palette, and I know it's like Metal Crushes or something like that. I'm actually pretty sure that is what it's called. This is Metal Crushes. This is one I would like to reach for more, and I feel like I don't because the packaging is like so obnoxious. It's not something I would really take anywhere. Having the slide out apparatus is definitely not my favorite. This guy here is the 28 pan Natasha Denona palette in blue and purple, and I kind of feel the same way with this as I do the Lila. Like, I like it, but I don't love it. It does have my most favorite silver in it though. This is the Lorac Tale as Old as Time Beauty and the Beast palette. I bought this when I was in New York because we don't get stuff like this in Canada, and as much as it's just a bunch of neutrals, it's still pretty to me, and I used to really love Beauty and the Beast, and people used to tell me that I reminded them of Belle because I was a brunette that was always with my face in a book. In the back here, we have all of my Vice palettes. So this is the Vice 2, obviously no longer available. These are also ones I hold on to for purely sentimental reasons. I can never seem to get rid of them, but I reach for them all maybe once a year. This is Vice 3. Lots of different shades. I miss Urban Decay coming out with stuff like this. I feel like when they launched Reloaded, they stopped. Like after that, it was the last one. This is the Vice 4, which looks like this. This one is the Vice LTD. This was so hard for me to get my hands on. I actually had a friend buy this for me. He was so sweet and surprised me with it for my birthday. I love that. I will keep that one forever. And the last one is the Vice Reloaded. And I'm pretty sure this was the last Vice palette they ever released because it didn't do very well. And then I think that was kind of the end of it. I have one bucket that's a little lower down and it's just full of stuff I have recently purchased. So I'm actually going to just quickly go through that without moving the camera. So this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette. And holy moly, I have been loving this. Like, I'm so surprised. I have Soft Glam and Norvina and I have all of those. But this one I've seriously been like really loving. It's one of those ones where I put it on my eyes. I was like, holy, I'm shocked at myself. I've only had it for about 3 days and I've actually worn it all 3 days, which I never wear palettes like that in a row. This is the White Peach palette by Too Faced. I got this for Christmas from my mom. I have honestly, truthfully, yet to play with it because I feel like it's more of a spring type palette, just with the shades that are in it are a little bit lighter. My mom also got me this lovely little Macaron Violet Voss fun size palette. Haven't had a chance to play with this yet either because I've been obsessing over the Sultry palette. And truthfully, I was sick for most of the holidays, so I was not even wearing makeup. This guy here is part of my final haul for a very long time. This is a Jouer Ultra Foil palette. This was very underrated. It's actually on sale right now for $41 and I really like it. Like, it pairs especially well with the Sultry palette, actually. I also picked up this colored Raine Vivid Pigments and Shadows. I wanted some more shadows that were like really, really vibrant. And I'd heard a lot about this for Makeup Struggles and these specific shadows, so I wanted to give those a go. Haven't had a chance to play with that too much yet, but I'm ready. This one I just picked up yesterday. This is the Dominique Latte palette. It is kind of like a neutral... This is a more fall type palette. I'm just trying to like get the lighting to work here for us. Work for, not against. I was kind of on the fence about this. I had Sephora's email notification on to tell me when it came in stock, and then it came in stock. I never bought it, but then I went in store yesterday with a gift card. I ended up getting it. I swatched it this morning and wow, it swatched beautifully. I was surprised. And last in my little still need to play with it bucket is this Too Faced Then and Now, which I'm really so far liking the original formula better than the new formula, which I find kind of odd because they've changed from the top to the bottom. I'm still really on the fence about how I feel about this. It's also so big I can't even get it in frame. Okay, this is my more, like, I don't want to say popular palettes because they're not the popular palettes. They're just the ones I probably are the most cult classic. So I'll just start going through here and I'm going to start from this side. So this is the Modern Renaissance palette, which everybody has seen a million times. I did use this a lot. I truly did. And when there wasn't a lot of other things out like that, I definitely did some damage on it, but it's not really something I reach for a ton anymore. A super unpopular opinion, I definitely liked Subculture a lot. You can't really see it on camera, but I've definitely got some dips into a lot of these shades. But because it's such dark colors, you can't really tell. We have Soft Glam as well. And this one I wasn't as in love with as I am so far with Sultry. Like, it's good, it's okay. I just feel like there is a lot of shades in here that are the same shades as other Anastasia palettes that I already had. So I don't really find myself reaching for this that much. Like I said, don't necessarily grab for all the time. This is the Norvina palette. This is probably the one that's the most up my alley shade-wise. It's got those purples and a little bit of browns. I mean, like, up my alley in regards to the four I've just discussed between this and Subculture and then Sultry. I do like that they're just here and you can pet them. This is the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. This was in my palette bingo, and I swear to God, this is one of those palettes that every time I use it, I love the look I create, and then it goes back in here and I forget about it, and I don't know why I keep doing that. This is my Naked 3. This is my version of Naked 3. I did have Naked 3 and I decluttered it in my declutter video. This is the Buff Collection Pure Cosmetics, and I just liked this one better than the Naked 3, but I think when I decide probably in about 6 months to do another declutter, this will probably go because I have not reached for it since. This is the Naked Smoky. Same thing with this as the Heat. Every time I use this, I do really like the look that I come up with, but I just don't proactively go for it. I don't do a lot of dark looks, and when I do, I tend to use the Pat McGrath. This is the Urban Decay Naked palette. This has been discontinued, but I do know that you can still get it on a lot of websites, so it's not like totally discontinued. I've actually hit pan on Toasted and put a pretty significant dent in Sin, and I will be keeping this because it's a palette I do still use periodically. We're getting into some YouTube classics now. This is the Chocolate Bar palette with a dog hair in it because that's the kind of human I am. I do have a pretty big dip in the corner of Champagne Truffle here. I was actually trying to hit pan on that and then I got distracted. I'm really, really bad for that. And I accidentally sprayed Fix Plus on it, so there's a weird dot here. This is like the original one. It's so thick, and I actually had to write the names of the shadows on it. Too Faced Semi-Sweet. This is definitely one I had to have, and I do still like it a lot. This is actually one of my sister-in-law's favorite palettes. I probably use Candied Peach the absolute most in this, and Summer Yum down here. Too Faced Chocolate Gold, when Too Faced started to turn it around again. So this is a pretty much all shimmer palette. I am thinking about doing a pan that palette this year, but just kind of like quietly on my own, so that if I don't end up getting where I want to, I will not be held accountable to anybody but myself. It's currently undetermined what I plan to do, but I have been reaching for this quite a bit lately, mostly for this gold, and I also really love this green up here. I'm not really good at the whole like one look, like go-to look. I just don't have a go-to look for anything. This is the Too Faced Gingerbread palette, and anybody that didn't get their hands on this, man, I'm sad for you. It is so beautiful. This shade here, Hot Toddy, is amazing. I've actually done a tutorial with this, and I will totally link that down below. I've done tutorials with lots of these, if I'm being honest, and I will link hopefully do a playlist maybe of tutorials for you. Between this and the original chocolate bar, I actually prefer this guy. This is the Too Faced Semi-Sweet chocolate bar, and these shades are just a little bit more up my alley. I don't even know why I like them more. I just like the way they translate a little bit better. And of course, my last tin Too Faced palette in this size is the Clover palette. My mom brought this back from the States for me, and I'm so thankful that her and my aunt and a couple of their friends actually do that for me, because there's lots of stuff I wouldn't be able to get my hands on that I would really love. And I'm actually going to keep this out because I want to play with it. Okay, so that's it for Too Faced in this drawer. Now we are going to move on to Colored Raine Queen of Hearts. This was the first year I actually even got this, and I should be playing with this as well because I've only used it I think 2 or 3 times, and it was something I really wanted and I do actually really love. Seriously, the holidays screwed me up so bad. I got so many palettes all at once, and then I wanted to do so much stuff, and I got sick, and work was crazy, and I was traveling, and here we are. And this is another Colored Raine palette. This is Cheers to Beauty. I was using this like crazy, and it's funny because I actually thought I would have used Queen of Hearts way more than I was using this. But this one definitely through Christmas was one of my go-to palettes. I've not actually really talked about it very much, and I probably should have because it was definitely a crutch for me through the holidays. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Self-Made palette. I'm sure if you've been around YouTube, you have seen this before. This is another one that I should really be pulling out more. There's a lot of really great shades in this. I know this wasn't that popular when it came out, and it's since been decluttered by a lot of people, but I actually like it, and I feel like I don't give it enough of a chance. Another Anastasia palette that I know a ton of people have decluttered is this Lavish palette. This is my favorite fall palette, and I use it a lot. This is one of those ones though where a lot of the shades in here have been duped, not necessarily duped, sorry, but repeated in other Anastasia palettes. So even if you have gotten rid of this, you can definitely get similar shades elsewhere. I also liked the packaging of this one because it was so compact. This palette is the Zoeva, and my only Zoeva palette called Blanc Fusion, and I actually won this in a giveaway. I don't use it too much because I don't really reach for gold all that much, but it's definitely here, and so far I don't mind it. Another gold palette. This is the Lorac Gold. We all know how everybody on YouTube feels about this shade Unleashed. This is like, I feel like this whole video is like YouTube classics. Like I should be on like YouTube ESPN classic, but for makeup or something. This is the Unzipped. This is another palette that I everybody really liked, but I bought it and haven't really reached for it too much. It will likely get decluttered this year. We are back into some Urban Decay. This is the Jean-Michel Basquiat, and this is the neutral shades. I feel like I was literally sucker punched by this palette. It reminds me a lot of Naked One, and I just feel like I should use it, and I don't. This palette collection is like an exercise in guilt. This guy here was bought for me by a friend. This is the other Jean-Michel Basquiat. This is the more colorful one. This one I've actually used more than the neutral one, funny enough. This guy here is the Tamana palette, Dress Your Face from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This was one of the original classics for sure, and it's definitely a little bit smaller in their old style. I really love the shade Sangria and Gilded. This video is making me realize I'm a creature of habit. This guy here is the Artist Couture palette, and I actually thought I had decluttered this and I was going to wear it the other day and thought it wasn't here, so let me just go ahead and pull that one out as well. This is the Urban Decay After Dark palette. This was seriously underrated in my opinion. I feel like not a ton of people talked about it, and when they did, it was not in depth by any means. I'm not sure if it's available anymore, but I don't think it is. It was kind of like the sister to the Electric palette, which is right here. The Electric palette, I will never ever get rid of it. It's probably one of my most abused palettes, and it's very obviously very abused. I know you're all looking at this going, you don't have pan on anything. That's because I rotate through my stuff so much. And this is another one from this year. This is the Urban Decay Born to Run. Let me just throw it everywhere. I also did a lot of damage on this. I did a pretty thorough testing of this and review of this, which I will also link down below. I didn't do a ton of reviews in 2018, but the ones I did, I tried to like really go hard for them. Like I was wanting to really have an opinion and make sure it was an educated opinion. All right, so moving down a drawer, this is probably my most packed one, so I will try and do this as quickly as I can. These guys are all the Naked, the little ones. This is Naked Petite Heat. This is Naked Basics 2. Seriously, the reason I don't use these is I find them very hard to open. This is Naked 2. I actually dropped it and gouged it. And then Naked Basics 1, and I've actually hit pan in this guy in the shade Foxy. Yeah, you can see it. These are also a few palettes that will be going probably by the wayside this year. This is the Too Faced Sugar Pop, Too Faced Natural Matte. This is a palette I bought from Winners on sale, and it's a nice palette, but I just don't reach for it because I'm not that much into neutrals. This is the Too Faced Peanut Butter palette. This is another one my mom brought home for me, and another one that I really wanted and I'm going to leave out because I want to play with it. This is the Too Faced Totally Cute. It did come with a million stickers, and I only used the Totally Cute one just so it would have its name on it. This one confuses my brain because like it wants to be a colorful palette, but then you go like this and it's more of like a neutral palette. I don't know. Too Faced Bonjour Summer. This was also recent in my most recent palette bingo roulette. I can't remember. Palette bingo remix, I think is what I was calling it. I did use this probably the most out of all of the shades and all of the palettes that I selected for that. But I do think I'm going to end up decluttering it because I just have things I reach for more. So these are all the Milani Everyday Eyes. This is Plum Basics. This guy is Bare Necessities. This one is Must Have Metallics. Sorry, these are hard to see. And then this is Earthy Elements, and I believe this is Bare Necessities 2. These are really great drugstore palettes if you are interested or looking for something along those lines. Coming down here, we have 3 CoverGirl palettes. This is the True Naked Dazed by CoverGirl. I'm being personally victimized by the sponge. So these are probably one of the first palettes to actually really come from the drugstore that was good from CoverGirl. Sorry, not come from the drugstore, but come from CoverGirl that were any good. So if I was going to use like a Naked 3 type palette, I would probably be this one, the blushes from Maybelline, or the Burgundy Bar from Maybelline. So that's why I feel like I'm going to end up getting rid of that buff collection that I spoke about earlier. And this is the True Naked Jewels. So I had decluttered a lot, well actually like all of my Maybelline nudes palettes except for these two. This is the Blush Nudes and the Burgundy Bar. If you like Modern Renaissance but don't want to pay the money for it, Burgundy Bar is another great option. Just hanging out up the side here is the Kat Von D Metal Matte, and I will say what I said with this for the other one. I am not getting rid of anything I already own from her. This was a great palette and I have no beef with the actual product. This is the Sigma Wildflower. I did pick this up when I was in New York. It's a really great everyday palette if you're really into neutrals. Too Faced products. There is a blush and a highlight and then 4 shadows. This is the Pastel Goth. I did go on like a Kat Von D depotting freakathon a little while ago and I actually missed this one. This may also be getting decluttered. As much as I like it, I just don't really wear pastels that much. So this will be one of those things that in 6 months, if I don't reach for it, I'm going to start doing maybe seasonal declutters this year and see how it goes. These 3 guys here are all from Essence, and this one is the I'm With The Band. These weren't amazing, but also not horrible. Sorry, this is hard to show at this angle. As everybody knows, purples are not the easiest, and drugstore purples, oh my god, this thing is like challenging me. And drugstore purples are definitely no different. These are ones I wanted to like, but they're just, there's something missing and I can't quite put my finger on it. This one is Spice Up Your Life. And this guy here is Fairy Wings and Magical Things. And I feel the same way about this as I do about that Pastel Goth, where I just don't really love pastels. And that's one of those, you're buying things for the person you think that you want to be, not the person that you are. This is the ColourPop Semi Precious. If you really like shimmers, this is a beautiful palette. I am actually not sure if it's available anymore, but definitely if it's in your collection, you should pull it back out. This was one of my favorites in 2018. This is the Too Faced Razzle Dazzle Berry from the Tutti Frutti line. I love that they tried a different packaging type, and this shade here is insane. I will definitely hit pan on this year. I grabbed this a ton, and all of these honestly make very similar looks, but it is a very beautiful look, and I don't regret this purchase in the slightest. This is from a brand called Crate Finds that no longer exists. They actually shut down their product line. This is the Chase the Sunset palette. A lot of these shades remind me of Sugarpill, and I feel like they were very similar. This is my Jaclyn Hill Becca palette. I was using this as my gym palette for a while there, and this is another one where I bought it because people were complaining about the shitty quality, and then it was awesome. That's happened to me twice with Jaclyn Hill products. God damn it. I have 3 5-pan palettes from Natasha Denona. This is a cranberry palette, and this shade actually fell out on me on camera, so I was kind of pissed off about that. And then these 2 here are this is Joya, and this guy here is Aries. So I actually use both of these quite a bit. I prefer the 5-pan formula to the larger pan formula, and I don't actually know if it's different. It seems like it's different to me just by the way that I use them, but I don't go that deep into ingredients, so somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong. The comment section on my palette collections are always a shit show and kind of funny anyway, so that's fine. This is the Elf Matte for Matte Jewel Pop. My subscriber, Blue Ballerina and Rebecca got this for me. Truthfully, I actually haven't played with it, and I probably should, so I'm going to pull that out. This is the Summer Breeze Matte for Matte. If I had to recommend one of all of the Elf palettes, this is definitely going to be it. And if you prefer cool tones, this one is the Matte for Matte 2, and it is also pretty excellent. These are the Transformers from the Masterclass palette and the eyeshadows from the Masterclass palette from Smashbox from, I think, 2 years ago, from 2016. I don't really reach for these that much, but again, I really like little stuff like this that you can throw in a gym bag, because even after I go to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning, I still do a full face of makeup while I'm there. And I'd like to have me some options. This is the Laura Lee Los Angeles Party Animal palette, and I actually think I'm going to declutter this right now. I have two Wet n Wild palettes in here. This is the Not a Basic Peach and Rosé in the Air. I don't hate these. I don't love them. I did do a full face of Wet n Wild at the beginning of last year and use both of these. The look that I did come out fine, but then I didn't find myself reaching for them at all. This guy is a Patrick Star collab. They are kind of different shades. I used to love the MAC quads. Like, they made me live and die for them. This is the Play With Me eyeshadows. Moving to the back here, and something that I probably should have put in my yearly favorites was these Magnify palettes from Rimmel. This one is the Naked Cherry dupe, and you'll notice I don't have the Naked Cherry in my collection because I didn't really feel like it was necessary. So I did buy this instead, and it's very close. Emily did a really excellent video comparing the two, and I actually preferred this one to how the Naked Cherry performed when she did that video. This is the Rimmel Jewel Rocks edition of Magnifies. I did buy this in New York as well. This one is wonderful. I actually haven't seen it in Canada yet, but if they do bring it here, I do recommend it. This side over here does remind me of the Urban Decay, I want to call it the Beaches palette, but I can't actually remember exactly what it's called. And then this reminds me of the Armed and Gorgeous from Jaclyn Hill, and I really like these greens and the yellows, and that was really one of my aesthetics I really liked this year. And then this is the Magnifies Color Edition, and I did a look with this at the beginning of the year in a trying new drugstore products video that I will link down below as well. This guy here is from a brand called Beauty Big Bang. I actually really like their brushes that they sent me. This was sent in like a PR package type thing. It's not the worst palette. It's also not the best. It's definitely usable, but something I might declutter just because the shades are too similar. Like these three here all look the same. These three here kind of look the same. There's just not enough variation for me in this palette. Moving into the back here, we have the Maybelline Lemonade Craze. This was really disappointing for me and actually in my worst products of 2018. The only shade in this I really liked was Sugar Coated on the bottom here, but because of that, I'll probably end up decluttering this as well. L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted. This one, I think I did, yes, I did do a review on this. It's very, very similar feelings to this as I had for the Lemonade Craze, but I felt like this was a little bit more usable for me. So I will probably keep this because this shade here is very close to Sugar Coated, as is this one here. If you mix them, they're almost the same. And I will get rid of Lemonade Craze. This guy here is a super, super old Kat Von D palette called Ladybird. I will not be getting rid of this, even though the mirror is dusty. At any point, because there's truly nothing I have like this that I love the way I love this. Even with multiple uses, it still performs really well. And it actually doesn't even look like I've touched it, but I seriously use this a lot. So I just pulled everything out of the back so it was easier for me to grab. This is the Lorac Pro matte. I was going to put this in my Giant Colored Rain palette and I actually missed it, so I'm going to probably pull this out so I can depot it and put it in there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep it the way it is. This is going to be a good gym palette for me. This is another Beauty Big Bang palette. This one was in the shade 03, and all of their palettes are just called eyeshadow with a number, which I find kind of funny. This was not bad actually, and I did do a tutorial / try on with this, which I will link down below if you're interested. I still have my two Sugarpill palettes. This one is Heartbreaker, and then, sorry, this one, yes, is Heartbreaker, and this is Burning Heart. I always get them mixed up because of both of the names containing heart. This is probably the best yellow and one of the better purples that are in my collection. This guy here is just a Z palette with the old Emo palette and the old Dangerous palette from Urban Decay. I didn't want to declutter them quite yet, so I depotted them, got rid of the blacks out of them that I know I won't use. I've almost hit pan on graffiti up here, so I think that's kind of funny. And then I have 3 neutral shades from Kat Von D that are just in here because I didn't have anywhere else to put them. The Kristen Leanne palette This is the Daydream one. Sorry, I can't remember what some of these are called for some reason. 1212, one of my subscribers did tell me to use that as a blush, and they were absolutely right. It is a beautiful blush. I do wish the pan was just a little bigger to use it for that, but packaging is beautiful, and if you are into mattes, it was definitely a great option. Something else that is no longer available for me is the Sonia Kashuk Ion Neutrals. This one will probably get decluttered this year, either this one or the Elf one. Because I can't get it anymore, and I'm actually not even sure if it's available at all anymore. I'm gonna have to look that up. There's not much point in talking about it. This is also YouTube Graveyard. As we continue on down, this is kind of a mishmash of palettes. I need to reorganize this one for sure. Right here I have all of my Obsessions palettes. So I have Mauve Obsessions. These were probably one of the bigger hits of this year. Electric Obsessions. My biggest gripe with these was truly that they, and I'm getting there, this is the Coral Obsessions. This is one of my favorites. Here's my biggest gripe. So I dropped this off my table, I think twice, and it shattered completely. All of the shades, all of them. So this is essentially garbage. I just wanted to talk about it, I think, in a palette declutter, and then it's definitely gonna go. I was really disappointed that it broke. I barely even got to use it. And then we have 3 from the Gemstone Obsessions, and this is Emerald, and it's the greens. We have Sapphire, which is the blues, obviously, and then Amethyst, which is the purples. I also really like these for the gym. I feel like I keep saying that, but truly having things to take to the gym make me really happy, because I really don't like to give up one hobby for another. And part of the reason I stopped going to the gym is because I lose that time in the morning to get ready. So this guy is the Petite Pro 2. This one also had a detrimental fall off of my tower a little while ago, but it's still generally intact. It just lost some chunks out of a few of the shades. So we try not to disturb this one too much. And this is the Viseart Petite Pro 3, which is the one with a little bit of green and purple. If you have green eyes or hazel eyes, that's definitely the one for you. This is the IT Cosmetics It Girl kind of beauty book. Well, it's definitely a beauty book, not kind of a beauty book. This has the craziest packaging I have ever seen. These are all like rhinestones. But this has lots of different stuff in it. I've been using this a ton for the face products. Sorry, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you have a setting powder, a Bye Bye Pores bronzer, an It Girl blush, and a highlight. And then you have some shadows over here. This one is something I feel like was pretty underrated this year. I'm not a super huge lime crime fan, sorry. This is the Venus XL, or Extra Small in Rose Gold. And this shade, and this is the first swatch I'm doing, is so beautiful, and I have not really heard anybody but Mel Thompson talk about these, and she only talked about the Cool Tone Blue one. I got this at Winners for like 12 bucks Canadian. All right, so this is a palette I got from Boxycharm. This is the Nightingale from Pretty Vulgar. The reviews on this were very mixed. I personally didn't mind it. I do feel like if you have sultry and you are gonna go out and buy this, I don't think that's necessary, because you get kind of the same looks from them. This one is a little bit more cool tone browns, but between the smoky and the sultry, so Urban Decay Smoky and ABH Sultry, you wouldn't need something like this. But if you got it in Boxycharm, I wasn't sad about it. This is another one from Crate Finds. This is called This Bitch, and I say the same about this that I do about the Chase the Sunset, as I feel like this is fairly similar to Sugarpill. I'm sad these guys don't exist anymore. Okay, this is from Alamar Cosmetics, and I'm sure you've seen this before as well. This is from Boxycharm. They sent this in the middle of the year. This is the Reina del Caribe, and it was a beautiful, beautiful palette. Not was, is a beautiful palette. So, Huda Beauty New Nudes. I don't know why I kept it in the sleeve. I never do this. This is another palette that kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't going to buy it, and then something in me was just like, no, you should kind of grab that. And I did, and it's stinking beautiful, man. And these ones that like look like they have mold in them, no, they are life. They are absolute life. I do have the original Rose Gold palette from Huda. I honestly never really reached for this. I went really back and forth when I bought it because I wasn't really on board with Huda at the beginning, and I'm still not entirely sure how I feel. I buy the products that I think will work for me, like those little Obsessions palettes, because I think those were a great idea. But this one I was just kind of like meh about, and I didn't really love the formula, so I have it and I will possibly declutter it if I don't start to use it. This is the Kat Von D 10th anniversary palette. Once I did the review on this, I did actually not really reach for it too much, even though I did actually truthfully really like it. But I do feel like this came out and then it was like a shit show about her, so I didn't really want to use it on my channel and have it in my description box because I can't be bothered with the drama. This is the only Jeffree Star palette I own. This is the Androgyny palette. Again, this is something else that I bought. I like, but I don't typically reach for, and I just feel like this is one of the only palettes I own that doesn't inspire me to create anything out of it. But now that I look at it, it does remind me a little bit of the Latte palette, so maybe I will play with the Latte palette a little bit and then see where this takes me. The Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye, you can also pull this out of the YouTube graveyard. Every single person who is on YouTube or who watches YouTube or knows what YouTube is has this palette. I was using it a ton at first. There's so much usage out of this shade at the end here. It looks like decrepit, but haven't really reached for it too much since then, since palettes are typically accumulated a little bit better. There's no need for an all matte palette. Going through this is making me realize I could probably stand for another pretty intense declutter. So I did buy the entire Morphe Jaclyn Hill vault when all that drama was going on because I love to kind of do my own investigation and see how I feel about it. This guy here is Dark Magic. That's what that looks like. This one is Bling Boss. I saw a lot of people either depot or declutter these. I don't mind them. Mine are not as bad as people were saying they are. This is Armed and Gorgeous, which is kind of like their greens, yellows, and baby poo browns. And we have Ring the Alarm, which is kind of reminding me of the Queen of Hearts from Colored Rain. This is another Boxycharm palette. This is the Ace Beaute Grandiose palette. I did really like this, and I do really like this. Haven't had it too long, so I don't have a super thorough opinion on it. This is the original Smoked from Urban Decay. This is one I keep saying I'm going to use, and then I never do, and I should really pull my head out of my ass and actually use it because the shades are beautiful. Every good makeup wannabe should have this palette. This is the Makeup Forever Flash palette. It's basically used for like face painting and artist painting and stuff like that. I use this for Halloween, and that's pretty much it. BH Hollywood. These are some of my favorite blushes, and I actually forgot that this was even in here. So there are eyeshadows on the side and then blushes in the middle. I'm going to pull this out for the blushes. I actually totally forgot about this. Shows how much I go in this drawer. And this is the Smashbox Masterclass 2. This is likely going to get decluttered this year as well. I like it because there is the hard plastic over it, but I don't really like the formula anymore. It's not what it used to be, and I truthfully just don't have time for something this big. This guy here is the Sigma Resort palette. This one is limited edition, has not been available for some time. This was my absolute favorite palette of like all of 2015 and 2016. I actually stopped using it because I was so afraid that I was going to run out of it. But then if you actually look at it, it looks like I never touched it. So I'm gonna probably start using this again. This was what like all my engagement photos had and everything. This is another palette I bought in New York. This is the Meet Matrimony from The Balm. This is, I actually got rid of the original Meet Matte palette because I didn't really feel like the shades worked for me, and these were more up my alley. So that one didn't survive my last declutter, but this one definitely did. BH Cosmetics Take Me to Brazil. This is one of those like little tiny pan, really vibrant colored palettes that I never reach for. This is another Balm palette. This is the Balm Jovi, and this is one of the only ones that survived my declutter. This is the only one that survived my declutter because I didn't actually have the Meet Matrimony at the time. I only had a bunch of other ones. So this is the Lone Survivor, but I actually don't think I've used it since then, so I probably should get on that. There just aren't enough eyeballs or days of the week for makeuping. This is the only baked eyeshadow palette I have from BH Cosmetics, and this is the Galaxy Chic palette. I really like this. It's really different. I don't use it very often, and I'm saying that a lot, and I'm like getting annoyed with myself about how much I'm saying it, but this one's really beautiful. So this was my Mega Depot. So this here is the Makeup Forever Artist palette. These are Kat Von D shadows, these longer ones, and then these 4 are from the second Kevyn Aucoin contour book. This guy here is also all Kat Von D shadows, so I try and put them into their own color families a little bit better so that I know what I have and what I can reach for. Then we have the Sephora Pro Cool. This is the original Sephora Pro, not the new ones. The new ones, in my opinion, are not as good. This is the Warm. This palette is the reason I didn't buy the Sunset palette from Natasha Denona. And then we have the Sephora Pro Editorial 1, which I actually returned the editorial to because it was horrific. Then we have the Stila Whole Lotta Love. This was a favorite of mine when it came out, and I was trying to keep it for the winter, and then, not keep it for the winter, but I was more likely to use it in the winter. And then winter is now here, and I'm still not reaching for it. So let me just pull this out as well. The packaging of this is cute and pretty, but it's really big, so it's kind of inhibiting my usage of it. Coming from the back here, this is another Boxycharm palette. This is the Crown palette. They sent me this one and it came broken, so I repressed that shade, and then they sent me another one and I put that palette in a giveaway. I do have 3 of the Makeup Forever palettes. This is number 4. This is all mattes. This is number 3, which is some shimmers. Nope, they're all shimmers, sorry. I like to refer to this as my Easter palette. And then we have this one, which is kind of a mix of both, and apparently got a huge dig out of it at some point. And this is the Artist Shadows number 2. Another Lorac Pro palette that has escaped me. This was the Brunch palette. Again, like something with me and pastels were just not that close of friends. I need to reevaluate my life. Every OCD's Nightmare, Kirsten Lee Ann's Kaleidoscope palette. Look at all the different shaped and sized pans and all the weird placement. This should have been done, in my opinion. I know why they did what they did, but if they had actually put it in a more cohesive layout, I think people would have probably liked this better. The shades are wonderful, don't get me wrong, they really are. Like, the quality really is there, but because the way it's laid out, it's like hard for your brain to make sense of it and use it the way you might want to. Revisiting a couple of Line Crime products. This is the Venus 2. I got this one from Winners. This one I actually didn't use too much, even though it's kind of grungy and kind of like what I was digging this year, so I'm going to pull that one out too. And then the Venus 1, which was kind of the same type of color story of the Modern Renaissance. I have a couple of Tarte palettes back here. This is the Tartelette in Bloom. I was using this a whole ton when I first got it, and this is the original Tartelette, which I don't really work towards mattes that much, and this is, whoops, kind of similar to Meet Matrimony. So at some point I'm going to have a war between them. Graveyard Girl and Tarte's Swamp Queen palette. This one I really liked. There was big dents in this one. I'm truly probably going to be using this again. I'm definitely going to use this again. I liked this a lot when I first got it. I probably used it for like a month straight. I just spend so much time trying new stuff. My old stuff doesn't get the love, so this year is the year of old stuff. This is another palette I had to have because of Kirsten from No Blend Makeup. She was sitting on my bed one time doing her makeup with this, and I was like, ooh, I have to have that, so I bought it. And then I quickly put it in here and never used it. However, it survived the declutter, which is funny to me. So this drawer, I'm actually going to start at the back just because you can already see what's back here. This is the Urban Decay Elements palette. I bought this from Ulta instead of Sephora because it wasn't at Sephora yet. And I took it to New York and I truly didn't use it even once, so I should probably pull this out and at least play with it a little bit. I wasn't really blown away by it, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I really want to love it. Look at this perfect red line. I want to love it, but I'm just not sure that I do. This is the Kevin Kwan Making Faces beauty book. I've talked about this on my channel before. It has the 3 different chapters in it. Emphasize, blush and define, and contour. I'm not going to pull this all apart. I've definitely talked about it before. It's not that exciting. The Kat Von D Serpentina palette. The biggest disappointment of 2016. Everybody wanted it and thought it was going to be lovely, and I just can't get this to stick to my eyeballs. I truthfully can't remember what this is called, but it is a Marc Jacobs like package palette, and I think I probably should have passed on buying this because it just doesn't really do anything for me. It's very neutral and very blah. I hate when I really like things at the time that I buy them, and then once I have them for like a month, they lose their luster, and I should have probably returned them. This is my Marc Jacobs About Last Night. This was, I think, a 2016 holiday release. All of my MAC palettes here, these are all singles. I'm not going to actually open them because they are kind of a disaster and it's not worth it. And we have the Jolie Beauty glitter palette. I did a very extensive review on this as well, which I will link down below. And I really like it because who doesn't like glitter? And last but not least, we have a whole bunch of ColourPop and Juvia's Place palettes. This guy here is the Nubian 2. So this was the year of like ColourPop and Juvia's Place for me. This one I probably could have went without. There's a lot of browns in it and I don't love wearing brown neutrals. But the pan sizes are huge and I don't regret the purchases. And I really do like the palette. We have the Sol and Mar palette from ColourPop. The Sol palette is like pinks and oranges and bronzes, and then the Mar palette is browns and blues and golds. This is called the Midnight Masquerade from Pure. It is truly the palette that confused me the most this year because it has colors that I like and face products that I like, but I still was kind of like lost when I was trying to use it. I'm trying not to like get you in the face with that. This came from Boxycharm and I truly can't figure this out. I did buy this one from IBY in Generation Beauty in New York. This is called Poolside. It does look beautiful, but truly the pigmentation does not stick very well to your eyelid, and I probably could have went without this. It's $12 that I spent, so not horrible, cute packaging, and like if I was to say actually take makeup on a real vacation, like a tropical vacation, it's not a bad one because it does have lots of like tropical kind of colors in it. And if something happened to it, I would not care. This was one of my 2018 favorite palettes, and this is the Dream Street palette. It didn't make it into my 2018 favorites because I do feel like the Pat McGrath palettes really took it for me this year, but I did use this a ton. I really like the 2 greens and I really love Kathleen Lights. So I can't complain about that. I did also get her Zodiac palette, which is this guy here. I was really disappointed in the Libra color, which is this one. That is my personal sign. And I just feel like it's kind of a boring shade for a Libra. Carrying on with my million ColourPop palettes that I got this year, this is the My Little Pony palette. I liked the color story of this. It was kind of different with like muted shimmers. Not a lot of people love this, but I actually did really like it. This one here is Give It To Me Straight. I'm gonna have to pull this one out. I don't even think I've used this once. ColourPop Good Sport, probably the best fall palette there was this year. I really love the shade Ebb down here. It actually made it into my favorites this year at least once. It was just a really different color story. It kind of reminds me of the Royal Affair from BH Cosmetics. Those two mixed would have probably been like the ultimate palette for me. I actually have 2 Makeup Shayla and ColourPop Perception palettes. They look like this. Reason being is I actually lost one. It had fallen down behind my counter, but then I was so upset that I had lost it. I actually thought it was stolen, if I'm being truthful. But I did replace it, and then when the order got here that I had replaced, I found the other one when I rearranged my office, and I found it behind the thingy. This is the Japanese Pixelated Color. I know I've talked about this before. It was also in my Palette Bingo Remix. I will probably declutter this year. It's a nice palette, but I know it's just not something I truthfully reach for. This is another Subculture dupe. This is the Revolution Reloaded palette. I really, I played with this a little bit. I did a trying new drugstore video with this, and I wasn't disappointed, but I also wasn't really blown away. One that I was surprised with was this I think it's Sophie. I don't know. I feel like I should know. I've never heard of her. I actually bought it just because the reviews are really high. This is again another Makeup Revolution collab, and this is what it looks like on the inside. This is probably the Makeup Revolution palette I've used the most out of all the ones that I own, and it's probably the best one. Like, you can actually see a dip there. I took this to New York with me and I used it a lot, and I also really love the mirror sizes on these without blinding you. And I feel the same way about the Emily Edit. I really like that the mirrors are so big. Two more palettes that I feel like were pretty underrated are the Royals and the Shimmers from Profusion. This one is the Royals and this is the Shimmers. My mom picked these up for me in Target when they were away, and this one I actually haven't used it yet, so I will say this is underrated. This one I still have to try, but I'm assuming the formula is the same because they look very similar. This was really good. I can't believe you don't hear more about Profusion. I feel like every time I hear about them, people are saying that they're overrated. Makeup Maniacs, that was one of the indie brands I tried this year. This is their Sweet Tooth palette. I do have this as well as the Butthurt palette. This was not my favorite. Some of the shades were really good, but other ones I couldn't get to transfer onto my eyes, so that was a little bit disappointing. This is another Dominique Cosmetics palette. This is the Lemonade palette. I bought this at the end of the summer, so I didn't get to utilize it like I would have liked, but I did like what I did get out of it, and I'm looking forward to the spring because I feel like this is very spring-esque. Two more palettes I got from New York when I went to Gen Beauty. This is the Center Stage from Pinky Rose Cosmetics. I used this a lot when I was there, but I haven't really used it too much since I've been home. This is probably one of the ultimate fall palettes you could get, and I was really happy with it. I feel like I am so seasonally charged by my palettes that once the season that I feel like they live in is over, they just get forgotten about. I went to Ricky's NYC for the first time, and oh my god, it was like the most amazing place on earth. I also got the Bright Lights from Pinky Rose from Ricky's NYC, and I did play with this a bit when I was there, but not too much, and I will be playing with it again a little bit this year when I have some more time to actually sit down and really go through it. The most unique thing in here is probably this pressed glitter cupcake. Okay, so we're on the last leg. This is the Makeup Maniacs Butthurt palette. This was probably my favorite and funniest palette of the year. I've just left the plastic on, so it it is basically like a anti-social media palette. It really made me laugh. It was $25. It was totally worth it. All the names and the shades relate to the names, like politics, snowflakes, lives matter is blue, child support's green, immigrants is green, anti-vaxxer is red glitter. Like, you have to have a sense of humor for this. I really have a sense of humor when it comes to this stuff, because if you don't, you're gonna die and suffer. But this was a hilarious palette, and I strongly recommend it. A couple of BH Cosmetics palettes. This is the Royal Affair. I grabbed this in Ulta when I was there in New York in October. Really happy with this. It actually didn't come on the Ulta, or sorry, on the BH Cosmetics website, so I was glad I got it when I was there. I probably wouldn't have been able to get my hands on it. This is probably one of the most popular BH Cosmetics palettes that came out this year, and one of the most palettes on YouTube in general. This was the Weekend Festival palette. This came out in the summer around music festival time, and this was everywhere on YouTube. It was very good. It was a huge call by BH Cosmetics. Just going to quickly run through my Juvia's Place palettes. This is the Nubian one, which is really just a bunch of browns. Probably not my favorite palette by them. The quality is fine, just not my personal favorite color story. If I was going to pick one, it would probably be this guy here. This is the Freak palette. This was one of their more unique color stories in my opinion. There's lots of brights that they have, but this was more unique. I also really liked this for fall. This guy here is the Saharan by Juvia's Place, and this is also a fairly unique palette. I really liked all the reds and golds, and like, this is very royal in my opinion, like very royal Egypt. I'm sure that's offensive to somebody. It's not meant to be, but the Festival palette by Juvia's. This one is full of matte brights, which I can really dig. See what I mean about how Juvia's Place just has these really unique color stories? Like, you can't not like them, and for the price, like, damn. So close to the end. This is the Decay by Juvia's Place, and this one is what I lovingly like to call the White Bitch palette, because it's full of like pastels and lighter colors for basic bitches like me. The Zulu by Juvia's Place. This is another really nice bright palette. If you are into brights, like this is definitely the one for you. It is wonderful. I definitely like that green. I've been really feeling green this year, just in general. And then this is the Masquerade Mini by Juvia's as well. This one, I feel like if you just want to try their formula in general, some brights and some neutrals, this is probably the way to go because it gives you a good mix of everything. And the last two that I will pull out here without breaking my hand is these guys. So this is a Z palette. This is actually my Naked 2 palette. It fell off my counter and broke and all the shades fell out. I couldn't even believe it. This is the It Cosmetics Contour Kit, which apparently that one is broken. That's weird. And then some random MAC singles. And then this is a bunch of random singles and all my old Wet n Wild. This is just highlight, and that is my Mary Luminizer that fell out of its pan as well. All right, guys, I hope you are all still with me. That is it for palettes. I am going to make an effort this year to be a little bit smarter with purchases and work more on my craft than anything else. So I hope that you stick around with me for that. And thank you for sticking around with me to the end.